He ruled over more than 400 million people before he could even speak in full sentences. He wore a dragon robe, but never had the freedom to choose his clothes. His name was Puyi, and he was the last emperor of China, crowned at just 2 years and 10 months old. This is the tragic, fascinating story of the child who ruled an empire. Born on February 7, 1906, Aisin Gioro Puyi was never meant to be emperor. But destiny and politics had other plans. In 1908, China was crumbling under internal decay and external pressure. The once mighty Qing dynasty was on its last legs. That year, the ruling emperor, Guangxu, died under suspicious circumstances. Just a day later, the powerful Empress Dowager Cixi also died. Born on February 7, 1906, in the twilight years of the Qing dynasty, Puyi entered the world as just another prince of the Manchu royal family. He was never intended to become emperor. His early life should have been that of a noble child. Privileged, yes, but mostly irrelevant to the great political machine of China's vast empire. But fate, and the desperation of a crumbling court, had other plans. In 1908, the Qing dynasty was teetering on the edge. After centuries of rule, the empire was plagued by corruption, internal rebellions, and growing influence from foreign powers. That year, Emperor Guangxu died suddenly under suspicious circumstances. Some say he was poisoned. The very next day, Empress Dowager Cixi, the real power behind the throne, also died. In the wake of this political vacuum, the imperial court scrambled to find a successor. They needed someone with imperial blood, someone who wouldn't challenge the older officials still holding power. And above all, someone young, controllable. They chose Puyi. At just 2 years and 10 months old, he was plucked from his family, dressed in golden robes, and crowned as the Xuantong Emperor. He didn't understand what was happening. He cried through the coronation, not out of fear of responsibility, but because he was surrounded by unfamiliar adults in strange costumes, bowing and chanting in a language filled with formalities. A palace of isolation. Behind the immense red walls of the Forbidden City, the child emperor became a living god and a caged bird. Puyi's life was governed by strict rules and age-old rituals. He couldn't speak freely, laugh loudly, or ask too many questions. His every move was watched by a sea of servants, eunuchs, and court officials. He had an emperor's status, but none of a child's freedom. He later remembered being carried into the Forbidden City and watching its massive gates close behind him. They never opened again, he said. Not for many years. Even the simplest parts of life became ceremonial. His food was tasted before he ate it, to check for poison. He wasn't allowed to walk alone or pick out his clothes. He was separated from his family and assigned wet nurses, tutors, and handlers. On the outside, he ruled the world's most populous empire. On the inside, he was a prisoner with a golden title. By 1911, the pressure that had been building for years finally exploded into revolution. Across the country, reformers, nationalists, and warlords rallied under a single cry: "Down with the Qing!" The Xinhai Revolution swept through China like wildfire. In 1912, after just 3 years on the throne, the now 6-year-old Emperor Puyi was forced to abdicate. But strangely, he wasn't immediately expelled from the palace. A deal was made. While China became a republic in name, Puyi was allowed to continue living in the Forbidden City, at least in its inner court. He still performed rituals. He still had servants. But he was now a king with no kingdom. A ghost emperor in a hollow shell of a palace. Outside those walls, China was changing. Warlords battled for power. Cities modernized. The young republic stumbled forward. But inside the Forbidden City, time stood still. After being expelled from the Forbidden City in 1924 during a coup by a warlord, Puyi's life took a dark turn. Stripped of his imperial privileges, he moved between residences in Tianjin, still clinging to the hope of restoration. In his heart, he still believed he was emperor, if not of China, then of something. That something came in the 1930s, but not in the way he had hoped. Japan invaded northeastern China and created a puppet state called Manchukuo in Manchuria. Desperate for legitimacy, they needed a figurehead, and who better than the last emperor of China? In 1932, Puyi became the chief executive of Manchukuo. By 1934, he was crowned emperor once again, but this time, the throne was a prop and the crown a symbol of foreign domination. Puyi had no real power. The Japanese controlled everything: the military, the administration, even his personal guards. He signed laws he didn't write. He read speeches he didn't believe. He was once again a prisoner, only this time in a palace built by a foreign empire. This second reign was marked by inner turmoil. He was surrounded by advisors who worked for Tokyo. He tried to assert himself, but failed. His court was more of a stage play than a government. With Japan's defeat in World War II, Puyi was captured by Soviet forces. He was taken to a prison camp in Siberia, where he remained for 5 years. In 1950, the Soviets handed him over to the newly formed People's Republic of China. Instead of executing him, Chairman Mao's government chose to re-educate him. Puyi spent nearly a decade in a prison for war criminals in Fushun. He was stripped of his titles, beliefs, and identity. He was taught communist ideology and made to admit his crimes, not just as a puppet of Japan, but as a symbol of feudalism. Eventually, he was declared reformed. He was released in 1959, no longer an emperor, but a citizen of the People's Republic. From throne to garden rake. In his final years, Puyi lived in Beijing, not as a ruler, but as an ordinary man. He worked as an editor. He served as a gardener at the Beijing Botanical Gardens, a quiet job that stood in stark contrast to his former life. In 1964, he was allowed to visit the Forbidden City, this time not as its master, but as a paying tourist. He reportedly cried as he walked through the halls of his childhood, recognizing rooms that once held power but now housed museum pieces. "I was the last emperor," he once said, "but also the first citizen of the new China." Puyi died in 1967 during the Cultural Revolution, a time when China was turning its back on the very past he represented. So what do we learn from Puyi's life? That power can be an illusion. That a child emperor of one of the world's greatest empires might have been the loneliest boy on earth. That clinging to the past can trap a person, or a nation, in cages of nostalgia. And that history often leaves behind people who didn't ask to be part of it, but were swept away anyway. Puyi's journey is one of the strangest and most human stories in all of history. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you found this video informative, so please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below.